Good day, Filter 90211. I'm Tiffany Rothman, and here I am with my amazing and wonderful co host, Chris Sloan. We will have our guest, Tan Lan, coming soon. Today, our topic is going to be creativities, and we will be talking about Tan Lan's books and future books.
Well, I'm doing great,
How are you,
Tiffany.
Chris?
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. And do you know that according to Sigmund, not Sigmund Freud, according to one of my professor of modern psychoanalysis, creativities comes from maternal rage, not copy. If your parents are artists and you are artists, that would be normal. But we're talking about maternal rage.
Maternal rage or age? So as we
Rage.
get older, we get more angry, we get rage, is that it?
No, maternal rage. No, we have some kind of maternal rage deep inside of us. And we want to express it, and we express it artistically. And that can be very, very healthy. It's just like for Freud was saying, creativity is an attempt to resolve conflict generated by unexpressed biological impulse, such as unfulfilled desire, a driving force of imaginations, of the imagination, and they fuel our dreams and
Well,
daydreams.
my thought is uh I should have a lot of creativity then. I think I have a lot of stuff, you know, I'm holding in throughout my life. So if I'm not expressing myself, I should become more creative, right?
That's
Yeah, I
why you
mean,
are the way
that's what the
you
doctor
are.
tells me. That's Chris. This is why you're the way you are. There's nothing you can do about it except let out that creativity. Um, yeah, we're talking about Freud, Freudian thoughts, creativity as a sublimation. Freud saw creativity as a way to channel unconscious desires. Ooh, that sounds interesting. And impulses, which we all have, desires and impulses, into socially acceptable forms. That's where I think the line can get crossed sometimes. Um, a process called sublimation, or I'm sorry, sublimation. Um, and many of us that do
Oh, yeah.
decide to allow this creativity out, um, I think the question becomes, where do we draw the line on expressing our creativity and impulses? Because sometimes desires and impulses could cross the line of what society deems as acceptable. What do you think about that?
Oh, well, society used to think creativity, like perform. They used to think that performing artists are bums. They used to think that because you are a loser, there's nothing you can do with your life. Therefore, you become a
Yeah,
performing
that's what I
artist.
told myself growing up. I thought, well, I wasn't really great in school. I don't like to read big books that are complicated. I'll just become a performer and I'll express myself and hopefully make millions and millions of dollars, be famous without having to really be smart. And what I learned was that doesn't work either. So you still have to have some intelligence in your creativity because there are people that are creative, but when you look at what they produce, it's I think you could call anything art if you want to. The question is the art worth anything to society? And a lot of art isn't deemed valuable, which means a lot of artists are struggling and starving,
Mhm.
like me. Yeah, the goal is, can you create something that has value that people want? You know, so hopefully people want our show, Tiffany, and hopefully people want to sponsor our show because we're talking about Freud and we were talking over the last few weeks about some serious stuff. So hopefully people take value into that and want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on advertising filtered 90211.
They should, and but you know what I like? I like when Freud said parallel between the creative artist and the child at play. both of whom create their own worlds of fantasy, their own worlds, and creativity and the child at play. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
think so because when we're children, we create our own. We create the world we want to live in. As children, we're controlled a lot about what surrounds us. The world we live in as children, for the most part, is chosen for us. The world we live in as children is imposed upon us, and we don't have a lot of say in it. And we have to be able to then create our own world as children. And we do that. We're very creative when we're children for the most part. We, we play make believe a lot. Um, and I think that's where the creativity parallels an artist and a child at play. And eventually that child becomes an artist. All they do is continue to create their own world, even as an adult.
You know what? About this make me think about play therapy. I mean, I know I create a dollhouse for my kid when she was little, but I would play with her. But I remember once my niece just moved to the state or something. One of my cousin's daughter, she was like 6 years old when she saw enter school, and she didn't know much English yet. I mean, now she's fabulous, but at that time, I remember buying her some toys set up as a classroom. You get it? Classroom
Oh,
and
okay.
chaos and
So it
teacher.
was
So
a toy dollhouse, but it was a school with teachers?
it's just a classroom furniture
But
and
was it a
peers with
dollhouse
teachers and
size?
peer.
Or was it right? So you
Yeah,
basically
it's the
gave her
size. Yeah,
a
and
mini
so
school with teachers for a dollhouse.
right. But what I did was I sent it to her mother, and I told her mother to leave it on the side after school. Let she sit in front of that toys and see what's going on, so she would know what's going on in the
Interesting. Very
classroom.
interesting. How did that go over? Did she like it?
She's fabulous. I think she did. This is a long time ago. I mean, now she's married. She's a successful nurse, and she's very happy. And she's an RN. So that's
Yeah, I
plus
mean,
work.
I hope there's no make believe in the office when she's a nurse, because that could be dangerous. But hopefully, she knows how to still be creative, even as a nurse. You know. And by the
Yeah,
way, Tiffany, we were talking about this before we went
yeah.
on. You're wearing a green dress today because tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. And what are your thoughts about St. Patrick's Day, other than it's a lot of drunk people eating sauerkraut and cabbage or whatever they eat on St. Patrick's Day? Is it cabbage?
I think I don't think it's beautiful that they celebrate it. They have their own parade, and they talk about Ulysses. Many years ago, around like 3 decades ago, I was wearing green on St. Patrick Day, and I went to see my somebody, one of my friends, and she's an actress. She lives, and she still lives in that building with a lot of performing, mostly actors. So I stood there waiting for the elevator with my bright green outfit, and a guy looked at me and said, "You're Irish?" I said, Ulysses, the main the main female character is me. It's loosely after me, Molly Bloom. He couldn't stop
Well,
laughing.
since when do Irish need a special day to party and have fun? I think they're doing it all the time anyway. So, like, you know, I
That's
mean,
great. They
I
enjoy
think
life.
if you're Irish, you're doing that all year round. You don't need a day to do it, but I guess like a lot of things, you need a specific day to make it official. So tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day. I've never really been a big St. Patrick's Day kind of proponent or partier. I'm not against it, but you know, it's okay. I like green. I mean, that's the only thing really that I really enjoy about St. Patrick's Day is I love the color green.
Yes. Yeah. It's a beautiful,
So,
beautiful color.
um, So let's get back to some Freudian thoughts here.
Oh, next one that we should ask Tam Lang is Freud. He believed the creative writers creates a world of fantasy that they take very seriously, investing it with emotion and separating it from reality. It's called the creative writer.
Absolutely,
And
because we
that's
have
what
a
she gets
writer
it.
that's going to join us, and I'm sure her fantasy world of writing is a very serious, important aspect of her life. So I'm sure she takes it serious, even though she enjoys it, and it is depending on what's fantasy and reality. Um,
She's not only a writer, she's also a celebrity singer and actress in the Vietnamese community.
so she's also an actress as well.
Yes, that's how I reconnected with her in one of the films. And she's a very famous singer.
So she's very talented. She writes, she sings, she acts. So she's very much into her creativity. So we'll ask what she's got bottled up then that
Yeah.
spawned all this.
And what about, Freud exploited the relationships between neurosis and creativity, suggesting that both can be originate in conflicts rooted in wish fulfillments and biological drive. They call it neurosis and
Well, I'll tell you what I
creativity.
think of
What do
that.
you
I
think
was
of that?
riding my bike, about a week ago, thinking about Shakespeare. Believe it or not, I do think about Shakespeare. I didn't grow up really, a fan of Shakespeare. I would say I did read Shakespeare literature in school because we had to. Um, and when you think about Shakespeare, it's all about his stories are really all about conflict, some kind of conflict, right? Relationship conflict, families, power struggles. And I remember a long time ago, it was probably about a little over 30 years ago, I met this gentleman the one time. I was having lunch and we started talking. And he said, somehow it came out that he was a writer and he had written, I guess, for film and TV. I don't know. I don't remember his name. And he just asked me about, because I had interest in writing. And he said, "Do you read Shakespeare?" And I said, "No, not really, not a
Mm,
lot." He's like, "Well, that's where all the stories come from. All the stories in modern day, whatever you're watching, television or film, the stories stem from the basis of Shakespeare stories, whether it's a husband and wife, a father and a daughter, a power struggle with a family.
mm,
Do these themes sound pretty familiar with
yeah.
Shakespeare? I mean, it's all about that, but it all comes down to what you
Yeah.
just said as far as rooted with conflict, conflict, and that's where the creative story all starts. If there is no conflict, Tiffany, would we want to read or watch the story without conflict? Nobody would be
No, no,
interested
nobody
in
will be
it. Like, why
interested.
am I watching this? Because everything's going to be nice and work out. There's no challenge, there's no goal.
Mhm.
Um, but yet, in real life, how many people would raise their hand, and I do, that would say, I would love to have no conflict in my life? Everybody would love that.
Everybody will say yes, because conflict is something that people try to avoid. I see people avoid conflict a lot, and it can be really
It would
devastating in the
be
long run.
probably more boring but less painful. So we would love that as human beings. But when we're human beings watching other people, we love watching conflict, except we don't want it in our lives. We want to be an audience of it. That's the psyche. We want to be an audience of conflict, but I don't want it in my life, right? You go to the mall, believe it or not, we have what's called shopping malls that still exist, even though they're dwindling down. Who used to love to go to a mall and sit down and watch people all day and watch people argue and fight or have a good time and hug and kiss and.
Actually, actually, I used to hear that about some people they would invite their guests over for dinner, and they would invite the kind of people that they know would not get along in politics or something like that, and they just sat there and
It's
laughed
all
all
about
the time.
conflict and entertainment, right? So going back to Freud and what he
Mm,
said and what he thinks about kind of goes to Shakespeare. So maybe Shakespeare kind of got it with Freud. Well, actually, Freud was after Shakespeare, right? So
Shakespeare.
somehow Shakespeare
Yeah,
knew
yeah, but
about creating drama with conflict. Even comedy comes from conflict, right? The great comedy stories are all about trying to overcome conflict.
and let's say Freud was impressed with the parallels between the child at play, the adult daydreamer, and the creative artist. That's his views. That's Freud's
I
views
don't
on
think we ever really
artists.
grow up if we're creative. I think we allow ourselves to be children still, to create a fantasy world that doesn't exist. Because as adults, it goes against what adults should do or think. Adults are all about, real life, you know, and the child in the artist that stays alive allows the artist to be alive and allows the artist to be creative and create a fantasy world that does not exist in front of them, and that child allows them to build it. What would life be without having that little child in us to create fantasy? And Tiffany, fantasy could be, as a kid, we used to play with these toys to build these little skyscrapers. So we would play with Legos or what was called
Yeah,
Tinker Toys, and we would build buildings like in our living room because, oh, let's build a skyscraper so we can, knock it down. Um, but when you think about it, if I'm an architect and I build, you know, structures for society, I say I'm doing civil engineering, I still need that child within me that was in that living room with the Legos and the Tinker Toys to say, I want to build something that has yet to be done. So when you think about it, anything creative, it doesn't have to be on stage or in music. It could be in everyday world. Some of the greatest accomplishments in civil engineering probably had an engineer with a childlike memory and said, "Yeah, I remember as a kid building this large bridge in my home. In my mind, it was the world's largest bridge." I'm sure that is probably what motivated many people to build real real things in life. But it still had to parallel fantasy. And even if it wasn't somebody that did that as a child, don't we have to dream it and think it first before it actually could become reality? Don't we have to pretend that it exists in our mind so we could design it and figure out how to actually make it happen? Absolutely. So even creativity in everyday business, we have to believe it first in our mind and then put it down on paper and then build it. Well, if it's in our mind, it's still only fantasy. I'm daydreaming, right?
yes.
So
So
you're
another thing
daydreaming
about
about what you
Freud's,
want to see.
yeah, that's Freud also indicated he saw realm of imagination as a reservation made during the transition from the pleasure principle to the reality principle, providing a substitute for intuitive satisfactions that had to be given up.
That's pretty heavy stuff. Um, if you really get into it, it's kind of heavy, right? So why don't we
Yes.
shift from
Can we?
heavier to lighter? We're talking about a guest that will be joining us very soon, who's a writer, singer, actress. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about her? What makes her tick? What are your thoughts about her creativity? And what can you share about her before she joins the studio?
Well, I think she's very brilliant. First of all, she's fluent in English and French. She majored in American and English literature, so you can talk to her about Shakespeare if you like. And she went to this private school with my relatives called Marie Curie, and they have to be really fluent in French. So she's singing in French
So she
beautifully
speaks
as well.
Korean,
I think
Vietnamese,
no
and then
Vietnamese.
she speaks French.
Yeah,
Now, is that
right.
kind of
And she
a
majored in
big gap
English
of
and
language to
American
go
literature.
from Vietnamese to French, in your opinion?
Not at all. No, the
It is?
alphabet
See, I
is
didn't know
almost the
that. I
same.
would think that they
The
were probably
Vietnamese language.
vastly different.
No, no, we don't have character.
Okay,
We use
good to know.
alphabet
So,
letters.
for those of you out there that are hoping one day to speak both Vietnamese and French, the good news is they kind of have similar alphabets.
Yes, but you know what? Another writer, she told me that she was going to major in Vietnamese because her best friend is, Viet, is Vietnamese. She was close to this family, but she couldn't even learn it because the sounding is too difficult. So she ended up majoring
So,
in
she
Chinese
majored in
in college.
Chinese. And Chinese, they use
Instead,
characters,
yeah,
correct?
yes, the character is pretty, and she said the sound is easier. I mean, maybe that's true. I don't know Chinese, so I don't know, but I know that in the Vietnamese language, if you mispronounce just a little bit, you could end up cursing someone instead of respecting them. Like you try to say something nice and respectful, and you mispronounce it,
Yeah, I
it could be
mean,
like you cursing them
it's
out.
it's kind of scary with the language and cultures because you can, in one instance, think you're complimenting somebody, but then you could actually be calling them a whore or something, right? Without knowing it, and then all of a sudden, you're scorn. They scorn you and scoff, and then you're kind of blacklisted, and you didn't even know what you did. So I guess it could be dangerous speaking languages that you're not sure about. Um, so you don't end up calling
Yeah,
somebody a derogatory name, right? I would probably get kicked out of a lot of rooms in other
exactly. Yeah.
countries trying to speak the language correctly because I have, as you know, Tiffany, sometimes a hard time speaking English correctly, but I do my best, and I'm always all about the effort you put in. You get an A for effort. That's the way I felt in school. My teachers didn't, but I felt that way. Hey, at least I tried. Give me an A. They'd give me a C or a D. So, but that's in school. But in real life, yeah, you don't want to call somebody a bad name. Unless you really want to, and that's when it comes in handy
Well,
when you know different languages because you could curse them out in a language that they don't know about.
yeah, languages is very powerful. Like it said, the ability to manipulate language, rhythm, and the sound evoke emotions and create vivid imaginary is crucial to the creative process
Well,
of
they say you
poetry
can't
too.
take your words back, but an attorney would tell you, but you could write a check, and that's just as good because it happens every day in society. You say something wrong, you get sued, you just write a check, and they forget about it once you write the check. So that's one thing to think about is if you say something wrong or you mess up, just pull out your checkbook and you'll be fine.
Yeah. So this is Tan Lang third book. It's called like a First Love, and there's some poem in it too. So and
Why
I
don't you read the
you want to
poem?
read one of the poem? The poem. I don't know. I have it with me here. Let's see the poem. From the book, the poem. Which one?
Pick
Which
something
one you
that
want me to
that
read? The one in English?
makes an impact to you. Read something that you think would have some symbolism in your life, Tiffany.
Oh,
Okay.
how about lazy? I like that. Lazy. Catch the breeze. Smell the sea. Listen to the seagull in the air. Close your eyes. Hear the waves coming to you endlessly. Sun is bright, day is warm. Take my hand for a walk till we drop. Sleepy on the silky sand. Place my lips, feel my arms Forget your work. Let's spend a
I like
lazy
that the
afternoon.
sound of that. What page is that on? Oh, you went all the way to 95. Okay.
95.
I like lazy for a number of reasons because I am lazy and
Yeah.
thinking about a summer breeze and not doing anything sounds really exciting to me.
Oh, would that be nice? Just like spend an afternoon doing nothing.
Um, I'm just looking for something that's even more interesting. Page 95, spin the silken thread divine. Now this sounds pretty deep. In creating precious, I'm sorry, I'll start over. In creating precious silks.
That's not
Oh,
page
what am I
95.
reading
I
then on
got
page
page
95?
95. I think you. I don't
Oh,
know.
maybe I'm
I
reading the
read
wrong
page
book.
95. Which one do you read?
Is it the same book with Bamboo Moon?
Maybe.
Oh, that's why.
No, different one.
I'm reading the wrong book.
I, I sent it to you. Okay, so you
Well,
want to read
why
another
don't you
one?
read another one? Pick one more while we're waiting for our guest to join. She should be on any minute now. It's a little bit after the hour.
Yeah, let's see. She's saying.
You know
Let's
what?
see.
I think I got the right page up now. How about this? Well, I'll read a poem with you. I'll read. I have the right book
Okay.
now. So you just read Lazy. All right, I'll read. All right,
Mm-hmm.
let's read Love at First Sight. So I'll read that. So I got the right book now. Um, this is
Okay.
called Love at First Sight, which some of us have lived. Um, before I read this, I'll tell you, I I fell in love with my one dog Valentino, and it was about 6 years ago, almost to the day, that I was out doing business in South Central LA. It was not a great place as far as the part of town I was in. It was a little rough. And I went into this shopping plaza, small little plaza, um, and there was this dog, this little dog running around to each storefront looking for a handout. And I was just watching the dog because I'm big with animals. I'm an animal advocate. I rescue dogs and cats when I can. Um, and I started to follow this dog, and I sensed it didn't have a home. It then was panhandling some pretzels off of these kids at a bus stop, and I was able to coax this dog over to me, and I bent down. The dog stood next to me. I kind of rubbed his cheek, and then realized I was going to take him home, and I did. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had him ever since. His name is Valentino. He's a Chihuahua Terrier mix, and I believe that day I fell in love with him. So I'm going to read a poem now from the book called Love at First Sight, because I believe Valentino and I fell in love with each other that day. When I see the sea, I see freedom and strength. So that day when Valentino, I call him Tino, saw that pretzel from that kid, I think he fell in love with that pretzel. When I see the moon, I see softness and peace. I think when Valentino saw my face, he he saw softness and peace in me. When I see the sun, I see gladness and warmth. So when I picked him up and held him tight to my body because it was a pretty chilly day, it was in February, I think he had gladness and felt the warmth of me. When I see the snow, I want to catch it with my hand. Valentino does not like snow. He's from California, so he doesn't like snow. Little snowflakes falling, falling. Did you know my heart is aching? I don't know why my heart is aching. Well, I know why my heart aches sometimes is because I audition and casting directors don't call me back. Uh, I don't know why my heart is aching. I don't understand my own feelings. I could definitely relate to that. When I see a sail, I see courage, a new horizon. When I see a sail, I see a sail under this huge catamaran that I could never afford. Um, when I see a plane, I see goodbye and separation. Um, when I see a plane, it's a plane. I don't like being in planes; they're very cramped. Um, Only when I saw you, Tiffany, I felt my life fulfilled.
Oh, yeah. Should we check on
Nope,
the
she's
link
not
if
checking in
she's
yet,
in it?
so maybe she's writing another book while we're talking.
She click on it, but no, she said she clicked on it, but she couldn't
No,
see
I
us.
don't see her in the waiting room. I'll read another
Oh,
poem.
okay.
So that was Love at First Sight. That's about Valentino, my dog. I call him Tino, and me. Here's one that's very tempting, forbidden love. What? Tell me, here's the thing. Love is supposed to be great, but putting the word
Love,
forbidden in
yeah.
front of it, it's like this huge temptation because everybody wants to love, but it's called forbidden love.
Well,
Um,
because sometimes you're not allowed
well,
to
so
fall for
what? I
somebody
mean,
from
it's
certain
love.
background and something
Since
like
when?
your
I
family.
don't know. I think love is
It's a long
absolute. I don't
ago.
think love could be wrong. Anyway, unless you have like a love for like heroin or something. I guess that could be wrong. Okay, forbidden love. I wanted to hold you. I wanted to kiss you. I wanted to weep on your shoulder. Yeah, I've had many of these moments in my life. Um, the weeping part. I wanted you to hold me. This is when I would ask people out and they would say no, and I just would weep on their shoulder and say, "I just want you to hold me," and then they would think I was crazy. I wanted you to hold me. I wanted you to kiss me. This sounds like me in high school. I wanted you to keep me on your shoulder, but we could not make a single move. My hands were trembling, my body shaking, my heart pounding, my mind exploding. You were looking away, knowing that I could not stay. When I said goodbye, you didn't answer. We were crying in our hearts, suffering to be torn apart. But one word we could not utter. An unbelievable as it was. We loved each other, but we were no lovers. Never, ever. Well, that's the story of my life, Tiffany, because I fell in love in my lifetime with many women that never even knew it and they wanted nothing to do with me until I met my beautiful wife. And she was crazy enough to say,
I don't believe that. I think many beautiful women fall in love with you too, and you don't even
well,
notice.
I don't know about that. Okay, I see our guest coming in. We're going to let her in right now on that note. But what I was saying is until my wife said yes,
Hi.
most of the time people are saying no. So I guess whatever I put in my wife's drink,
I,
it worked.
yeah. Welcome, Tan Lang. We were just reading some of your poems,
Thank
and
you.
you should hear Chris. I mean, we were doing some kind of analysis with creativity through Sigmund Freud ideology, and
It was a
Chris was
beautiful
reading
poem.
your poem.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
It's struggling.
Well, you
to
made
follow
it.
through here.
Welcome
So
to
we talk.
Filtered 90211. You made it to our lair, and we welcome you.
Yeah. So
Thank you very
you
much.
know,
I'm
we
very
were
happy to be with you. And at first, should I say hello to our listeners or
Say hello to everybody.
audience? Hello. My name is Thanh Lan. I'm a Vietnamese actress and singer. I live in Orange County, South California. I've been doing this for more than
Well, you
50
don't look like
years.
you're old enough to do it that
You don't
long,
have to
that's
say.
for sure.
I don't need to.
No one would believe that. But we were talking about your third book.
My first book is my
No,
autobiography,
no, the third
The
one.
Truth Thing. That
Hey,
the third one, the third, not the first. My
yeah.
poetry.
Yes, the poetry is great. The first one's also great. Oh, Chris, but by the way, if I never read Tan Lang's first book and I seen some of the movie like The Silk Dress about
Oh,
Vietnam,
really?
I wouldn't believe it. Because the history, Yeah, she lay out the history of it. And when I saw the movie, I said, wait a minute, this is strange. This is not believable. And then I said, oh, what year is it? And then, I remember her book. Otherwise, I wouldn't believe it. I told people that. I say, if I never read her book, I wouldn't believe that the movie actually exists. And they say this is based on a true story.
Yes, though those are documentaries, uh, meaning real facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, we were talking about creativity, and Freud has a certain interesting idea. And we were reading your poems. Would you like to talk about it?
My
Like my favorite.
actually, I launched this in 2002. It was like 20 years ago, but then I ran out of books, and then my fans asked me to launch it again. So I have been launching it last year in 2024. And would you like me to read
I would
something
love
in
it.
my book of
I
poetry
think
in
people are
English?
tired of hearing me read it,
Yeah,
so I think coming from you, it'll sound better.
I read
Maybe
Lazy. I
like
read
that
Lazy.
Tiffany's English is better than mine.
No, yours better. And Chris
I
read
did. It was
Forbidden Love.
very lovely.
Okay, I am
Okay.
going to read Lonely Star. So
Yes.
I have been a star in my own country, Vietnam, when I was only 18. I sang on radio at the age of 12 and
Yeah.
started to play in, play for television plays when I was 18. And this is my poetry about being lonely, because I was so lonely. I had only the arts for friends. So you are my inspiration, my sweet consolation. I was for you a voice, an image, or adoration. Don't put me on a pedestal. I am a vulnerable woman who has been hurt and wounded and always ready to cry. Don't believe in my charming smiles. I put a mask on my face to chase my misery away. I need you. Give me strength and peace. Be with me when I sing. Be with me when I cry. I wish to see you by my side.
I have to ask you about that. So is a lot of that how it was growing up in a celebrity type lifestyle where there were times that you were not happy?
Well, I think that it was my fate to become famous. I never dreamed of being famous at all. When I was little, I dreamed to become a teacher, teaching French or English. My English was not so bad. Actually, I've never been to school in the United States. Everything I know, I learned in Vietnam. So
Late.
I started to write poetry in English when I came to California after 1993, meaning 1994 or 95. And I had one of my poems in Catches in Time, a house of poetry in Maryland.
So tell me more about the
1994.
face that you had to put on. It sounds like in the poem that you're wearing a face that's not always telling everybody what you're feeling. Is that true?
Because I was always lonely, and love for me, I did not find true love at that time. I don't want to talk about my own life. My it's not a happy thing to talk about your misery. So I was very famous, and many men dreamed of being with me, but actually it was not true love for me.
Right, for the wrong reason.
For a reason
Yeah.
that they wanted to be with somebody famous. So
Yes.
the fame was giving me happiness and sadness at the same time.
So why is it that people want to be with famous people?
Well, you ask yourself. Maybe it's more fun to talk with famous people or to be going outside in the street with somebody famous. You think you are famous too. uh, well,
Famous without doing the work.
well,
That problem in their idea, in their mind, being famous without doing the work.
it was my thinking long ago. Now I'm fine. I have a family. I'm happy, and I don't want to talk about that anymore.
We were talking about some Freudian statements earlier that Freud had stated about creativity, and that how in our lives when there's conflict we become very creative. We could be very creative. It sounds like you use some of that conflict early in your life to create. You created poems, you created books, you're an actress, you create characters. So, do you believe that some of that conflict helped you be who you are today?
Well, the more your life is difficult, the more you would become somebody interesting to talk with. And I, I like to spend my time being alone, especially now, writing books and talk about my thinking.
What's your thought about sitting at a table with thousands of people for book signatures? Do you enjoy that idea?
Well, would be happy too, but I'm afraid to have to answer many questions.
She
See, I
does.
would be
She wants
excited
to sit
about
there to
that
sign
because
books.
I need attention. Where you're the opposite. You just want to write and create, but you want to be alone. Me, I like the idea of people. Would love the idea of people wanting to meet me, and I would sign books and talk to them. The only problem is I don't write books, so you know. Um,
Did you read my book?
Pardon?
Half of it?
I
Did you
don't
read
have
my
your
book?
third
Half of
book.
it or all of it?
No,
No.
she's talking about the first one.
I've
You
read
read some
poems
of the
from the
poem.
third
You
book.
read all the English
I've also read areas of your
in his
first
third book.
book.
Yeah.
I don't, but I will tell you this, and I tell
Yes.
everybody this. Very rarely do I read a book from cover to cover, like front cover to back cover. I like to skim through a book for the meat and potatoes of what it is that I think I would enjoy. So that's the type of reader I am. Is that like if it was like a bowl of food, I dig around for the things that I really want.
Yes, I hope you would find my book interesting. It's not only about me, it's about my grandparents, my parents, my country, what happened to us, why
Yeah.
left the country.
History of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the history of what happened in the
Yeah.
north.
So what's next
Can
for
you
you?
can you
Next, I am writing a third book, but
No,
in
fourth. You're writing the fourth book now.
my fourth book. I don't count poetry as a book. It's a collection of poetry. So my third book is about the future of humankind.
Also, it's like science fictions.
Yes, a little bit of science.
Right. So the third novel. This is going to be her third
It's
novel.
thing because it's strange, and it doesn't sound like myself because I'm writing it with my husband, and it would be in French, English, and Vietnamese.
Oh, that's
Me-
great.
Three books at one time. I plan to launch it at the end of this year.
The end of the year. Yay. That would be
And
great.
will the future in your story include artificial intelligence or AI? Because it's gotten so big now.
AI. Well, I hope it would be a theme that the people would like to read. It's about human when we can fly all over space and go to other planets and find other creatures. And well, I am not going to tell everything.
Well, I'm definitely interested in reading more of that when it's ready, because that sounds pretty exciting. What about acting?
Okay. I yes, I hope this time when I launch the book, Tiffany will be coming with you.
Oh yeah, I'll be there. I don't know, Chris have time to be there, but I will be there.
Yeah, I know, I know. She's a very dear friend of mine. She is everywhere I am.
And also, Chris was asking you about the acting. Have you done any film, any acting lately?
Oh, it was I don't remember. It was at the end of last year. Uh, one of the first chapters of Book of Death with the Jenny Tan.
Oh yes, that's the one I did a few weeks ago.
Good, good. We would,
See the book on that, like for 3 or 4 different episodes,
yeah,
and
this,
she did it the end like
And
last year,
it's
and I did it a
starring
few weeks
who?
ago.
yeah.
It's a collection. It's like a documentary of the war. The producer and director, she wants to produce it, and she's going to go to send it to college and university, and she going to go to a film festival like the one in Cannes. She just want to show the world that no matter who win the war, everybody will lose one way or another.
That's true. Uh,
Yeah,
that's what I said in my book. That the war is not good for anybody at all.
yeah.
I pray we would live in peace together
Yes,
forever.
yeah, yeah, yes.
Well, I think peace would be fantastic.
Yes.
And Tiffany and I were talking about
Yes,
St.
it's
Patrick's Day tomorrow. And are you going to have some green
Yes.
beer and
She
some green uh, corned beef or sauerkraut or something like that?
cookie and ice cream spray.
good, good.
Tiffany's wearing green today
I don't. Yes, I'm wearing a
for
dark
St.
green
Patrick's
today.
Day. I'm wearing kind of aqua,
So
but
dark.
you know, I'm thinking green. So, would you allow me the honors of reading one of your poems?
Yes, yes. Do it now.
Okay,
So I
I'm
can
going to
hear your
read
voice reading
one
my
of your
poem.
poems, and the poem is called. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, wait a minute. That's a little. Well, oh, here's one. Lonely Star. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, she read
Oh,
that.
you just wrote that.
She
Oh,
just
okay.
read that.
You read Lonely Star. Okay, hold on then. Let me read
Yeah. So
The Sound of Solitude.
Oh yes, that's a
I
good one.
like that. You could read it in English,
Okay.
and then I can read it in Vietnamese. Or Tiffany, could you read it in Vietnamese?
So I'll read it in English, and then
The
Okay,
sound.
Tiffany, you're going to read it in
do
Vietnamese?
it. Page 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this
Page
is
100.
this is me in English here. Ready? The Sound of Solitude. Do you happen to stay still and listen to the sound of solitude? The tears of the morning rain softly falling as if mute. In your imagination, every shadow you capture is unreal, in slow motion. Do you happen to stay stoned? Rigid statue in the dark, trying to free your soul, prisoner of a lonely heart. Do you happen to question why, in a sudden, loss and emptiness together can't even make you shiver? Does a stone have feelings? Have you ever seen statues crying in the rain? They have no pain, no hope, no despair, no tomorrow. No one to cling to. Deep in their sorrow, meditating. Yeah, I mean,
Kind of
so
sad.
as I read that, I think, boy, statues. We love statues. They mean a lot to us for many reasons. But think about the life of a statue. You you have to stand still. You can't move. If you're outside, birds use you as a stepping stone and do their thing on you, and then it rains on you, and it's too hot and too cold, and you can't do anything. You can't shoo them away. You can't scratch your itch. You it's pretty lonely, isn't it, to be a statue?
Mm-hmm. But we don't know if they have feelings or
Well,
not.
if they do, that's got to be pretty frustrating that they can't do anything about it. What do you think, Tiffany?
Mm.
I hope not. I hope they don't have feeling because it can be very, very miserable and painful
So
for
now we're
them.
going to hear Tiffany recite the same poem in Vietnamese.
Yep. Yep. Tiếng cô đơn. Bạn có khi nào ngồi lặng thinh, lắng nghe tiếng cô đơn, thụ tín, trong nức nở, mưa đêm rên rỉ, nước mắt của mưa âm thầm rơi. Trong tâm tưởng hiện ra bảo ảo giác, những bóng đêm lướt nhẹ qua minh, một đoàn phim quay chậm lung linh, tất cả hầu như là không thật. Bạn có khi nào như hoa đá, tường đá bất động giữa đêm đen, muốn giải thoát linh hồn băng giá, giam cầm trong đơn độc con tim. Bạn có khi nào tự hỏi mình, vì sao thế bỗng nhiên, mất mát và trong vắng trên miệng, mà vẫn chẳng thấy mình run sợ. Tường đá có cảm giác gì không? Bạn có thấy tường kia nhỏ lệ, dưới con mưa cúi đầu hoài thế? Có biết chăng đau khổ là gì? Chẳng hy vọng hay tuyệt vọng chi? Không có ngày mai để lo nghĩ. Biết bấu víu váo ai đó nhỉ? Lắng sâu trong buồn bã làm gì? Tường đá vẫn suy tư. Wow.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Said, don't believe in my charming smiles. It's a mask I put on my face to chase my misery away. So all my poetry is
It's
not
very
happy
deep.
at all.
Makes you think. So it's almost as if then maybe you had a face of a statue. Then your face was not telling us your emotions. Is that it?
Well,
Happy emotion.
for our jobs, Tiffany, we don't put our emotion at first. We put the emotions of the character. That doesn't mean that in our real life we have to act. We don't know how to act in the real life. We only act when there is a camera and the lighting.
Chris knows all about it. He's a great actor.
Yeah. I believe that some people and I think there's generations and different ethnic backgrounds that either promote the communication or lack thereof of what we're feeling. Some generations and some demographic backgrounds, depending on where you come from, you're not supposed to talk about how you feel.
No.
And some generations, I think the most recent generations with that demographic and technology, everybody's telling everybody what they're feeling all the time, like on social media, right? So you have such extremes, right? They
They make
absolutely
up for
do,
the past.
without a doubt. It goes back to Freud with the
Oh, well,
creativity. And if you encapsulate all your emotions and don't talk about how you feel, you need to release that somewhere. And we release that in our creativity.
mhm.
That's what makes us great artists, right?
Yes, yes. So when we play some role, we need to put a little bit of ourselves in that role.
Yes, and you
But
know what happened?
yes, living that life, we are no more us in our life, but the other person in the other life. But we put a little bit of ourselves in his feelings.
So, what happened when a highly creative person does not create?
Well, I think that is death for us. Mm.
Destructive come
I
in,
think that person is then
right, Chris?
tortured within themselves
And
and
become
probably will
destructive.
implode. They must create to allow that energy to be released in some form of positivity.
And I think that's happened to a lot of people who they were brought up or they don't have the gut to be creative or use their creativity because it's not practical. They don't have time. They was told not to. They're too afraid to. Fear would take over them, and they become very destructive.
I think it becomes a person
That can
that
be
needs to be
dangerous.
creative but is not, becomes a very empty person, very hollow eventually to the point where they kind
Mm-hmm.
of wither and die within themselves, even though they're still alive, and they become a shell of who they are. And almost robotic. They're no longer
Yes.
living amongst us. They're just existing amongst us.
Mm, yes. For me, I think that a person cannot be empty if he or she want to be an actor.
Oh
Well, it's
yes.
interesting that you talked about when you play a character, you have to put a part of yourself in there. I had an acting coach years ago who trained actors on the Meisner technique. And Sanford Meisner was this
Ah.
great, great coach to actors. And part of the Meisner technique was I had to bring areas of my real life history within that character and story. How would I feel in that situation? And I had to draw upon real life events to bring it into that character. So to me, I had to think about if it was a sad scene or a sad character, I had to think about when I was really sad and how would I bring that into this role. Um, it's not always easy, even though you do have that. But I agree with what you said. If you've had kind of an empty kind of a life, how would you bring that into real life? You can't. You can't bring it into a character. You have to have a lot of emotional drama in your life, positive and negative, to bring that into a character. So a creative person, an artist, an actor, an actress, without drama in their lives, what are they going to pull? Where are they going to bring that from?
Well, for me, I think that when you play somebody, you gotta be two persons at the same time. You and that person. You have to think for both.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and when you say something, and then and then when you need to play something really, really sad, you gotta remember something very sad in your own life. Use
Well,
it.
that would be very easy for
Mm-hmm.
me. I have a lot of sad moments in my life. That's why I like reading those roles because it's like, wow, it's like not even acting for me. I have a
Okay.
lot of sadness in the path. It's easy for me.
So I think that all of us are really, really sad
I would
because
say for me the word is pathetic, but you know, for you it might be sad. For me, it's kind of pathetic, but you know.
All of us sad people trying to make other people happy.
yes, we were talking about a movie of Jenny Tai. It's about mostly about both people. I would like to read for you a poem about somebody who has seen and be with both people, and if it's love at first sight is the title. It's about love, but somehow she remembers the time she was with the both people. So she opened with, "When I see the sea, I see freedom and courage." See, when you see the sea, you see freedom and strength. When I see the moon, I see softness and peace. When I see the sun, I see gladness and warmth. When I see the snow, I want to touch it with my hand. That was the first time I saw the snow in Washington, D.C. when I came to the United States. Little snowflakes falling, falling. Do you know my heart is aching? I don't know why my heart is aching. I don't understand my own feelings. When I see a sail, I see courage, a new horizon. When I see a plane, I see goodbyes and separation. Only when I saw you, I felt my life
I
fulfilled.
love that poem. I actually read it a little earlier, and I told Tiffany it was kind of like the story of how I met one of my dogs, Valentino, who I found on the street, homeless.
Yeah,
And we found each other. This
oh,
it's been 6 years
and
now
love at
that we've been together. I found him on the street, and I said during reading that poem, that it was like Valentino and I finding each other.
yeah.
Love at first sight. Because I say to my wife that
Yes, he did.
when I met Valentino for the first time on the street, it was love at first sight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we cannot explain love.
That's
It
right.
came to us
We
suddenly.
we had no control over it. It happened.
Yeah.
So,
No,
so now,
I-
Chris,
is that about chemistry?
Is it about chemistry? It's either there or it's not,
Yes.
right?
yes, yes. But can I invite the audience and you to do the
Absolutely.
instant offering now? The fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be truly present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our practice center, protects and guards our minds from all wrong thinking.
Well, I sure could use that because I do a lot of wrong thinking. So hopefully it heals my wrong thinking. It makes me smarter. I need to be smarter.
Well, you are
Well,
smart.
being with both
You're
of you,
very
I
brilliant.
feel
You're very
very
smart.
stupid because you're both very intelligent. So hopefully I learned something today.
Yeah, so let's do some Kuan
And
Yi Oracle, Chris. Okay, look what I have. Look what
yeah,
I pull out.
we tried our best with
Yeah.
lives, and we wish you the best with your life too. Yeah.
So now it's called, this picture, this image is the
The
call of
dancing
the
crane. Well,
dancing
back it up a
crane.
little bit. I can't see it. Back it up a little. Like the dancing crane.
Yep. Number 4. Would you like to do some reading of it from the Kuan
Do
Yi
I have the
Oracle?
dancing crane in front of me?
Yeah. You
Hold on
have
a
it on your
second.
text.
Let me pull it up.
Call Dancing Crane.
The Dancing Crane.
Well, I was too timid to
I don't
be
have
able
it,
to
Tiffany. Where
dance.
is it?
And Tiffany,
Oh, it's on the
It's on
text
the
you
text
sent me.
I
Hold
sent you.
on.
It's
Let me
number
get my
4.
phone.
Yeah.
The Dancing Crane.
Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
I mail it to
all
you.
right. So I have it in paper form. Hold on. Let me grab it. What page is it on?
You do.
22.
22.
Oh, Call of the
You tend to
Dancing
answer
Crane. Here it
Juan
is.
Yi Oracle.
Okay. Okay. You want me to read it? I'll just read some of it.
Yes.
Dancing
Yes.
Crane moves through waters and muddy marsh with elegance and grace. The mating call and dance of the crane is full of beautiful movement and flow. There are times when the astral waters of our emotional life become stagnant and will benefit from the healing movement, grace, and beauty of the dancing crane. The call of the dancing crane is a reminder that sound can be healing too. This is particularly so when your thoughts, beliefs, and emotional patterns do not support you in living the spiritual destiny you were born to live. That's pretty symbolic, I think, of most people's lives, in my opinion. We actually then rely on the
Yes. Very
dancing
symbolic.
crane to stimulate and mix up the stagnation of our lives, right? So our lives become stagnant with emotions and
Yeah.
everyday routines. And the crane comes, here's the crane, dancing on the water, spinning up emotions in our
Yeah.
lives that we need to survive. I think there's times where people
Yeah.
just sit and wait for that to happen instead of making it happen themselves.
Yeah. So now, when we end our show, we like to read off some insults from the era before the English language got boiled down to the 4-letter words.
You
Would
want
you
me to
like to
read
go
an
on?
insult? Okay.
of
Yeah.
course.
All right.
Go ahead,
Here's
Chris.
an insult. This is from Hollywood. His mother should have thrown him away and kept the stork. Mae West. Here's another one from Hollywood. Some cause happiness wherever they go, others whenever they go. Oscar Wilde. Here's another one. Hollywood. I've had a perfectly wonderful evening, but I'm afraid this wasn't it. Groucho Marx. Why don't you read one, Tiffany? Do you want to read one?
What? Well, Oscar Wilde. He has no enemies, but intensively disliked by his friends.
Only dislike, not enemies.
He is self-made man and worships his creator.
Yeah, that sounds like me. That's a bit narcissistic, isn't it? Well, I'm
Thank
speechless.
you.
I'm speechless.
Well, thank you, Tan Lang, for coming. It's a pleasure having you
Thank you
again
so
here,
much.
as always.
Well, I struggling getting you too. I did. This is the first
Well,
time
we're
I'm
very
doing
excited to have you.
long. I was having an interview with somebody in Australia. I could do the Zoom that time and just once. but this is the first time with you
Well,
here
I
in the
feel
United States.
special.
No, last time. No, that's not true. You were here last time. Last season, you were here talking
Yeah,
about your short story.
yeah. Last time I went to your place.
No, you did. You did in here through this. Yeah,
Yeah,
remember, Chris?
I went to your place.
No, it was here. It was
Are you
through
sure that
internet.
wasn't in the future, Tiffany?
Yes, yeah.
Maybe that was in the future.
Huh? No. She talked about her short stories.
My short stories.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't.
The first time you went to the studio. The first time was the first time.
And there was a second time. This is the
Second time it was through link like this, and we had difficulties too. We talk about the short stories, and now we talk about the poem, or maybe next time we talk about the
I don't know, Tiffany. Whatever you say.
and the next time we can talk about your science fictions
Well, it
novel.
was a pleasure to have you, Tiffany.
Okay, well,
You wanna lead us out?
Yeah,
thank you.
and Tiffany.
Yep. Thank you so much.
I am.
Yep. Thank you. This is Filter 90211. I'm Tiffany Rothman with my wonderful co-host Chris Long and our very, very special guest Tan Lan. See you later.
Bye bye.
Bye. Okay. Are we off?